Is there now a new way to detect whether an art piece is AI generated or not? Let's take a look at this. So this is the art piece in question that kind of started this conversation. It's posted by a user named Kuchita_Taya. Again, before getting into this, I just want to say don't send hate to any parties involved, no death threats, don't bully people, don't do any of that, okay? But this piece in question got 1.6 thousand likes, almost a million views actually, only 7 comments, and you can only actually see 2 comments. This is always a bit interesting when it comes to like art pieces on Twitter, when the ratio of like likes to comments is wild, as in there's like almost no comments. But this piece, if you look at it, it looks hand drawn, it has like a very sketchy style. You can see like cross hatching happening in aspects like the shading for the eyes. And if we were to, use the eyeball test to determine is this AI generated or not, it would be a little hard to tell, to be honest, right? Like there are some aspects that might be a bit interesting. Like we have the line work. It's a very sketchy line work, which is really cute. The line work breaks in some aspects and it doesn't look like it's like a artistic choice of you took your pen off the drawing tablet and then continue making your brushstrokes lower. But it's kind of as if the actual color of whatever object the line work was for, like the hair, is like replacing some of the brush strokes. Like you can see here, kind of looks like they colored over it. Same thing with here. It kind of looks like the line work was like erased in some way rather than it being like a conscious choice. There are some like speckles that could be artifacts. We have like a dot here, some speckling happening down here, a little dot here. Benefit of doubt, maybe they're drawing on the iPad. Their hand touched the iPad and accidentally left a brush stroke. Who knows? There's also some aspects of colors bleeding into other aspects. Like here, the wing, a like beigey, tanny color, but it's kind of like some of it bled into the gray of where the wing is. Here we can see some of the gray bled into the tan aspect. But, again, maybe the artist is just being a little bit rushed with this piece because it has a very sketchy look. One thing is like the iris rendering, it looks relatively even, So on first glance to determine whether this piece is AI generated or not, it's pretty hard to tell. It's one of those where it's like, maybe it could be, maybe it couldn't. I just try to err on benefit of doubt. I always typically would be like, oh, maybe it's legitimate, until other works might prove otherwise. We have this quote retweet by a user named FAI_0 writing, "The art may be hard to understand, but it's AI enhanced. The data are in the replies." And this is really interesting. 5.4 million views. They write, "The divisive factor is that even the white background has subtle colors attached, and increasing the contrast and saturation brings out noise. This is a phenomenon that would be impossible if everything were drawn digitally. Even with noise during posting, this kind of color doesn't appear. Please try it with a white background." And that is so interesting. Because if you look at this piece, this looks to be a completely white background. But somehow, there's so much noise that appears the moment you jack up the contrast and the saturation. How would that happen with a completely white background, right? Like a normal artist, if they were to hand draw a piece, what they would do is open up a canvas in their drawing program of choice, Procreate, Clipseed, or Paint, whatever. The canvas typically will default you to a white background and you draw from there. Or if you need to add a white background later, you grab your paint bucket tool, paint bucket fill the background with white, and then you move on. And no amount of adjusting the saturation or the contrast or whatever would cause you to have such like artifacting in the background. This is so interesting. So I went ahead and tried it with my own art. This is like a pattern I made for my friend of their cats. I printed this on tea towels and accidentally shipped it to my family home. So it do be like that sometimes. But like if I turn up the contrast, wow, the contrast goes up. You can see where I did not notice that, where I like colored out of the lines here. This is what you get when you don't double check your work very carefully. And then hue and saturation. All right, let me turn the saturation up. Wow, this is a bit of an eyesore. But you see here, like besides like the human error that I made with coloring outside of the tail here, there's no artifacting happening in the background. Now you might be like, okay, but like what if you put noise on your art piece? This is a piece that I made. I was like on a flight back from China or something like that. 13 hours, okay, so I had time to kill. There's noise on this. Let's up the saturation. Oh God, that's an eyesore. Okay, let's up the contrast. Even more of an eyesore. There's like a bit of fuzziness happening here. I think this is a combination of the noise and the fact that I painted it really fast and then I threw a massive Gaussian blur over it because I hate painting backgrounds. So like if I blur it really heavily, then you won't notice the fact that I completely chopped up the K-barbecue grilling tables behind her. I really don't know how to replicate the artifacts if I were trying. Actually though, after doing this, I noticed that I left another brushstroke over here. See, it didn't end up looking like this anyways. And I think the reason why an AI generated piece would end up having a look like this to it is because it doesn't draw like the way a human does, right? It's not selecting a color, grabbing a digital brush brush and then boop, 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 painting with it. No, it's just generate pixel, 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 pixel. Okay, we're done. So this is why when you see AI generated art, a lot of times there's like really, really, really minor hue shifts in the same piece. Like if they were to, I don't know, draw, oh God, okay, I can't stand looking at these like blown out colors. Let's go back to this. But like if they were to, I don't know, draw like her hair, for instance, there would be like 10 bajillion different shades of yellow in the hair. Whereas like a normal artist will experiment with colors and will use different colors in the hair, but it will not be to the astronomical level that an AI will use because it's just so tedious to shift the hue literally over like 2 pixels and then select the color and then use it again to make some more brush strokes. It's just unnecessary. Like that's why it's the same thing with the background, right? Like instead of generating, I don't know, a brown background, every pixel will be like slightly different, which like no human would really do. It takes way too long to do something like that. And so some users are following up. And this person says, oh, I see. At a glance, even with a solid colored background, if the saturation and contrast are cranked all the way up and there's noise all over it, it's a quick and easy way to tell. If it's hand drawn with a solid color background, then it's purely and literally a solid color. And deliberately tweaking the hue ever so slightly would add unnecessary steps with no meaning unless there's specific intent. And this is translated, but I think again, the meaning is like subtly shifting hue colors pixel by pixel, right? Because like the entire canvas is like an astronomical amount of pixels. Like there's no reason if you're making a white background, you're gonna make like 1 pixel like white plus a tiny bit of red, the next pixel white with a tiny bit of blue. There's literally like no reason a human being would want to do that. It's just so difficult with no reasonable intent behind it, I feel like. And the OP says, right, even if you adjust the overall color tone with slight overlays or soft light, it wouldn't change at all if it's a pure white background with no noise whatsoever. And besides, because it's a flat color style to begin with, I don't think hard lighting or anything like that is necessary either. There's people in the comments that are calling out like other artists. This person's art piece, you know, like when you jack up the saturation and contrast, suddenly it has all of this artifacting and hue shifting, which like also, I don't know this artist, right? But on one glance of this, I could basically tell this is AI generated because the eyes, this eye is completely like caved in comparison to this eye. There's a lot of artifacting happening on the face. The hair is like warping. This is like a AI's attempt at making hand-drawn art, but this is all compressed in a really weird way. So then it makes sense when you see all of a sudden, you know, there's all of this like shifting happening in the face. Another user adds, I think it could serve as one of the pieces for evidence of AI. Like close-up of the face, like how there's subtle remnants of redrawn lines on the mouth, nose, or eyes after several attempts, and the back of the tights since the data was in JPEG. Do you think it's possible? And another user adds, to clarify, I'm not judging based solely on noise. I'm fully aware that even hand-drawn artists can produce some noise, but this person has numerous other suspicions beyond that. So I went ahead and replied. And then OP quote retweeted that, adding, with this method, you can identify AI artists to some extent. For example, Sakunana and IQ Mofuari. I'm not reading these names correctly. Here we can see Sakunana's work. The white background, the allegedly white background, is completely filled with these sort of particles and artifacting happening. Here we have another user, Aiko, and the same artifacting is also visible in their work as well. OP also adds, Sakunana is a monster who keeps claiming hand-drawn even after being warned by the actual artist whose style the trained model imitates. They regularly update on Pixiv without labeling it as AI, and it deliberately spaces out the frequency so many fans think it's hand-drawn. And this is because one of the telltale signs that a piece is AI generated or a whole account is full of AI generated work is when they're posting at a frequency that like only godly artists who don't care about burnout would be able to match. You know, fully fledged illustrated and colored rendered pieces once a day or sometimes multiple times a day. Like, I care about you as an artist. Please take breaks. Okay, please take care of your hands. Please drink water. Most artists who produce, almost anybody I feel like who produces art at that frequency would experience burnout. Like, it's just not feasible to produce that much art that quickly. So this person allegedly knows that people look at that as a red flag, you know, posting at such high frequency. So they space out their work. They post their work maybe every couple of times a month. And by the way, how do we know that for certain? Because we have this conversation here between another Twitter user, Hagunha, writing, through this convo, it's as good as admitting you're using AI to generate illustrations. Yet even now, I can't find a single tag or description anywhere on this person's X or Pixiv saying generated using AI. Not one of the things we demanded or that they promised to do had been honored. These are DMs to Sakunana where OP said, hey, I've been told that you are generating images using an AI model trained off of me. If this is true, please delete all the illustrations. I suspect you're also using AI models from Nondu and several other artists. And I think the best thing is for you to at least state your art is AI generated. Sakunana says, hi, I apologize for any inconvenience. I'm not involved in training the models, nor do I have knowledge of the data they were trained upon. Therefore, I cannot guarantee these models have your work. However, I noticed the style of illustration I posted has similarities to you. So to respect you, I removed the illustrations, and I promised not to upload similar works that may cause confusion. That is them in a very roundabout way, admitting they used AI, right? Like, oh, I don't know what the model's trained on. Maybe it was you. I'll just delete them. Haha. Come on, that means you're posting AI generated works, right? Otherwise, you would say something along the lines of, hey bro, I hand drew it myself. There's no model involved. But there's also a concern brought up about Nightshade, right? Because Nightshade is something that you can run your artwork through to help avoid AI training or to help like damage the AI trained work. Basically, Nightshade like alters the colors of your pixels somewhat so that when AI is run over your work, it's not really able to recognize what your art piece is supposed to be. So a user adds, just checked it out now, but even illustrations with Nightshade applied, the filter for screwing over AI, can have noise added to the blank areas depending on how you handle them. So be careful and judge them properly. If you're used to it, you can spot the Nightshade filter with the naked eye. You know what I thought would be really funny to also test this with? Because my whole channel, right, is covering AI art, AI scammers, people who generate. Let me just use this test on a couple artist pieces. Artists who we've looked at and we've been like, yo, I'm very certain this is AI generated. Okay, this one is really interesting. This is the piece that we know is AI generated, actually. I covered it in a different video, but the metadata literally has the prompt in the metadata, so we know it's AI generated. But this one's really interesting because you can see like the artifact happening in the line work itself. All of this, like the legs here, on the sleeves here. So this account is an account called Morin, or It's Morin. This is one of like 4 accounts based in Cyprus that are all suspected to be this like AI scamming art ring where they all have Patreons, all made around the same time. Yeah. So let's take a look at this one, okay? Oh, this is interesting. What's happening in the neck? Where's all this artifact coming from? The chair. Because I jacked up the contrast, it's actually harder to see. But if I lower the contrast, like you can see all the artifacts within the chair and on the clothing. There's more alongside the hair and the keyboard, around the chips. Oh yeah, not to mention on the monitor itself. What did I say? This is pretty damning. I think the big thing at the end of the day is this is really interesting, and this is just another tool in the hands of trying to determine whether something is AI generated or not, right? Does this mean it's AI generated or does this mean it's hand drawn? Okay, like 2 irises not matching up, 2 ears not matching up. If it's like a one case thing, probably human error, probably accidental mistake. Some pixelation in the background, maybe the artist threw Nightshade over their piece, you know? But when everything thrown together looks suspicious, okay? The artist is posting once, maybe 2 times a day, fully rendered pieces. The artist only appeared in 2021 or after. So it's not like they had like a massive stash of work all the way back to like 2016 they've been posting. They never post any work in progresses. They never post any speed paints. There are also uneven ears and uneven irises. And there are also conveniently resembles another super popular artist that draws in the style. And it's not in the, oh, you can tell it was inspired. Like it looks really similar. And now if you jack up the contrast and saturation, there's all these weird pixeling artifacts happening. All of these together, maybe it's AI generated. But if it's just like a one-off, you know, don't bully other artists, don't go and harass other artists. But it might be one thing just kind of keep note of and be like, this is a little suspicious. So what are your thoughts about this? I thought this was a very, very interesting post that I just wanted to share with you guys. So anyways, if you like this video, I appreciate it. If you like and subscribe, don't forget to check me out on Etsy, where I have digital art for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources. Hope y'all like my Neapolitan hair. The dye didn't take as well as I like because it's like a fluorescent pink dye. So I diluted it a little bit, and I probably diluted it too much, so maybe I'll put some more, but trying to go for some Neapolitan ice cream. So I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch y'all in my streams or in another one of my YouTube videos. Peace.